I've been playing League of Legends for a long time, and frankly, far too often. The game is full of problems that aren't being addressed for one reason or another. Yunara, being the most recent champion at the time of writing, I feel has amplified some of these reasons, while some of them come to light between the roles I play. I plan to make this a two-parter, just like the Talk to Me videos. Creators surrounding the game I would also like to address. The general content creator and professional streamer or player is generally out of most players' ballpark. Thus, their problems will be different. I'm silver, and sometimes gold depending on how the win streak is that day. Like most people who play League. While I respect League content creators on the whole, streamers, and professional players, what problems they have with the game will probably be different than a normal player. And even then, my problems won't be the same as everyone else's. Not every game has the same players, champions, or even team compositions. But still, I think the problems I'll have with the game will be closer to what an average player deals with. Getting into ranked queue is painful. I can't tell you the amount of times I've either won my lane but lost the game, or been playing safe since I am losing and can't get any help. There's a mindset going around most of my games with jungle players. I have no idea if it's popular. Regardless, the sentiment is you don't gank a losing lane. You go gank the lanes that are winning. For some reason. Because ignoring the 2-1 Caitlyn until you have to teamfight will make things easier? It's retarded to think this way. Firstly, the losing lane is probably going to be the easiest to gank. When I'm jungling on Shyvana or Nautilus, I can't force a tower dive if someone wants to push up. While having to get a sweeper on my first back is super annoying since I won't be able to ward any part of my jungle, it makes ganking losing lanes easier. And you should focus on them anyways. Most of my games where the enemy doesn't surrender are between 30 and 40 minutes. That's not enough time for someone who has to sit under tower all laning phase, basically getting minimal resources against someone with a lead to catch up. And besides helping your losing laner catch up, you might net a nice chunk of gold if you help end an enemy's streak and claim their bounty. Pressure is also a big deal for losing lanes. Even if you don't kill the enemy laner, if you scare them off or burn most of their resources, they might have to play safer, giving your laner a chance to either catch up on their own or for you to come back later and eventually catch them. Even then, it feels like some games you are destined to lose. Loser's Queue may not be a mechanic designed by Riot, but it is something they don't really seem keen of getting rid of. Smurfs can be a big reason that it feels like there's a loser's queue. People playing on alternative accounts that are ranked lower than their actual main account in sweeping games. I've run into a couple people claiming that this isn't even their main, they don't care what happens to this account, and a couple more playing like they shouldn't be in my rank at all, basically. I've reported all of them, but I've never gotten a report feedback response that you get when someone does end up getting banned. So they aren't being banned, I guess? The people that are playing way too good in my games I can maybe understand. Maybe they were just having a really good game and not actually smurfing. But the people admitting it? I can't fathom why they don't end up getting banned, or why Riot won't take down websites selling accounts. If you really want to stop Smurfs, or at the very least make it really hard to do so, get rid of sites selling accounts. It's the easiest fix in the world and they just haven't done it yet. I got this chat warning for talking about why I picked Nautilus Jungle and how it's going. But you can't tell me if someone I reported in my games is a Smurf or not? The fuck? The other thing that makes the loser's queue feel real is the opposite situation. Running it down or having a bad start and just giving up right away isn't someone just running it down or having a bad start and just giving up right away isn't uncommon. And there isn't really a remedy for this in terms of the queue. It can't make someone forget their last loss, or how annoying their teammates were, or even get them over the bad start of another game. This one is just a reality of the game, not always feeling fair and shafting someone, and then they queue up again without mentally recovering. There's no fix for this that Riot can implement like banning alternative accounts. But even if the idea of loser's queue magically disappeared tomorrow, the game is cartoonishly balanced, and I think this is exemplified by the roles I play and the champions I choose for them. In the jungle, I prefer to play attack damage tank Shyvana and full tank Nautilus. Other than them being champions I've played for a long time, I think they show off a unique problem with the jungle. Balance is really bad here. My jungle picks are super out of date and won't get a meaningful update anytime soon. Well, Shyvana could have gotten an update or rework, but we'll discuss that later. She's sorely in need of one too. She's got a confusing mix of attack damage and ability power ratios. Her Q resets her auto attack while hitting twice, and the cooldown goes faster if you're also hitting something. It also makes your next two attacks quicker, which helps lower the cooldown even further. The concept is fine. It's an ability that helps you get it back faster if you're actively fighting. But why does it have an ability power ratio? I mean, it is an ability, but it already scales with your basic attack stat, which I tend to build for it anyways. You're scaling with your attack damage. It also lasts longer if you're actively hitting something. It also lasts longer if you're actively landing basic attacks like her Q. Now we see why all these ratios have been added to her other abilities. Shyvana's E is not super impressive at a first glance. It's a projectile that does damage in a line, immediately stopping if it hits an enemy champion. It marks anything it hits, letting you do more damage with your basic attacks. The attack damage ratios on this ability are okay. You're not really building attack damage for the projectile itself, but more for the on-hit mark damage. But if you combo this ability with her ult, which allows her to dash in a direction and gain access to her dragon form, it's obvious why ability power ratios were added to everything. In her dragon form, while her other abilities simply get bigger, her E becomes an explosive projectile that burns the ground. Her dragon form, the projectile itself, and the ground burning are all things that heavily scale with ability power, so ratios were added to her other abilities to compensate for the weakness of this build. Because Shyvana's Fireball nuke style build is relatively strong, her AD focused build has been left by the wayside. And even then, if you still don't think Shyvana should get some type of rework or touch-up, then look at how retarded her fucking passive is. It lets her do bonus damage to dragon-type jungle monsters and gain defensive stats for every dragon slain. There's only one type of dragon monster in this game, and you're not gonna fucking believe what it is. Moving on to Nautilus, who I will try to be quicker about since I'm not quite as frustrated with his situation. Nautilus was given bonus damage to jungle monsters on his E, Riptide. The first wave of it does increase damage to monsters. It's a blast around him that explodes 3 times, each one further away. If you position this ability right, it can hit jungle monsters with multiple waves, which doesn't really help make him a good jungler. At all. You either commit to building full damage, which isn't a good idea since Nautilus is an engaged champion and will be in the face of people who can blow his ass to Kingdom Come, or build full tank like I do and pray to God you get left alone because you are so easy to bully unless you somehow, by the grace of God, get to farm all your camps and build a lead somehow without any issue. You get outdamaged by pretty much every other jungle champion in the game, and your ganks are super easy to spot since your going in button is throwing a massive anchor and praying you hit the target. As much as I like Nautilus, he can barely jungle with this buff. And even then, Amumu, Volibear, Skarner, these are all tank junglers that are better than Nautilus and do exactly what he's doing. The niche of big CC units is better filled by other champions created and balanced for the jungle. The easy solution is to actually rework champions like Nautilus and Shyvana. Shyvana needs more balanced ratios to help her attack style builds not fall behind her more popular nuke ability power playstyle. And it would actually help if her dragon form did something other than making everything bigger and her fireball explode. Nautilus needs some actual change if you want him to jungle. Slapping on a damage boost to one of his 4 abilities doesn't make him a jungle champion. It just makes him a support pretending to be one while he gets robbed by actual jungle champions. But considering what they did to Rel, another support who used to be able to jungle, keywords here, used to, Nautilus is probably going to get shuffled back to bot lane with all his jungle changes taken away. Bot lane is home to the other roles I've been playing a lot of recently, both as a very bad carry and a suboptimal support. In other words, like shit. They both have a few unique problems that involve items, which we can skip now because... The main thing to talk about down here is the new champion at the time of writing. The... damage? Carry? Yunara. Yunara is a confused champion. She has ability and attack damage ratios that conflict with each other directly. She also has useless mechanics that restrict her just to make her feel unique, I think. I'm referring to her first ability, Cultivation of Spirit. Its passive gives Yunara a tiny amount of magic damage on hit. Otherwise, you can't use it without landing 8 basic attacks. 4 if you hit champions. Then, for a few seconds, it allows Yunara to attack faster and do some spread damage with her basic attacks that don't really do that much damage. I mean, eventually once you build items that give you more damage, it'll do damage. It's just... underwhelming? Because that statement is true for any champion. Once they build damage, their damage goes up. Nothing in her kit on its own can really do any meaningful damage anyways. Even her ultimate, which instantly activates Cultivation of Spirit and swaps out her other 2 abilities, doesn't really have that much power until Yunara gets damaged somehow. Cultivation of Spirit and her other damaging ability, Arc of Judgment, have low damage. And Arc of Judgment is casted faster with attack speed. Why not give her more damage scaling with her attack speed? Of Spirit. Yunara's passive is maybe the worst part, giving her critical strikes more damage. Scaling with ability power. Just why? There's no ability power items that give critical strike chance. And her kit is really similar to another carry, Kai'Sa. Both their Qs do AoE-like damage, their Ws are long-range projectiles, and their Es are movement-based abilities. A shield and Yunara swapping out her W and E for different abilities. Which Kai'Sa can kind of do? By building certain stats, Kai'Sa can evolve her abilities, giving them additional effects. So I'm not saying that Big Riot is trying to resell everyone the same champion over and over, but... well, actually, I guess I am saying that in this case. So never mind. The support role that normally helps the carry survive has gotten... more damage heavy? Xerath, Zyra, Vel'Koz, Morgana, just to name a few. They all technically have support abilities, being able to keep enemies away in some fashion. But their abilities and builds all revolve around them doing more damage. Yunara feels like a symptom of the problem in a sense. She doesn't do a lot of damage until she gets a few damaging items, but if paired with a support that is meant to do damage, she might actually be able to fight early on. If they are going to design bot lane carries in the future like Yunara, meant to do damage later on and really weak until then, what happens to standard support champions? Melio is a support that can do massive amounts of healing, but I almost never see him. Sona is my favorite support, giving AoE buffs to her team. But it's been a while since I've seen another Sona build support items. Tank supports like Leona and Nautilus are often passed over for full damage Poppy in my games. If bot lane carries are going to be anemic for half the game, then supports will trend towards doing damage rather than helping their carries carry. There's no easy fix for this. Damage supports like Zyra and Xerath need some type of buff, that way they can go mid lane instead of being stuck as a support all the time. Yunara and other low damage carries need to be given more consistent damage, and scaling that isn't confused. If you want to design a carry that starts weak and gets stronger over time, design them with that in mind. The mindset for Yunara seemed to be, how do we design Kai'Sa but make her Asian? Wild Arrow was something I alluded to earlier, but it's one of the items in the game that makes me realize the game lies. Yuntal Wild Arrow is placed in a category of Crit Amp. Crit Amp. Let's just look this over really quick. Oh, well, this passive lets you build crit chance. Well, it doesn't look like this involves crit amp at all. Another clear-cut case of the game lying about its items is Zeke's Harbinger. Ally amp? You've got to be kidding me. It gives you damage. There's nothing in the ability about giving your ally damage. This stuff is important because some items lock you out of buying others. You can only buy one armor penetration item, for example. If you buy Lord Dominic's Regards, you cannot get Mortal Reminder or Serelda's Grudge. But then sometimes these categories don't matter. Infinity Edge is an actual crit amp item, but you can get it and Wild Arrow at the same time. Someone needs to go over this stuff, because when the next item is added, I don't want to have to do equations to know what item excludes it. Other than the game pulling your leg sometimes, there's items and rune issues. Some of them are just naturally better than others. Legend Alacrity and Legend Bloodline, for example. Legend Alacrity, when you fully stack it, gives you basically half an item's worth of attack speed. Legend Bloodline, when fully stacked, gives you lifesteal, which is only meaningful if you're building attack damage. And it isn't that strong, in all honesty. A lot stronger than getting 5% lifesteal and 80 health. Fucking... God damn it. Runes need an overhaul. Reworks like Lethal Tempo letting you do more damage on hit are just a different flavor of Press the Attack, which lets you do damage on hit. And other runes like Absorb Life undermine the point of something like Fleet Footwork. I can heal a little bit of health every time I kill a unit, or sometimes I heal a larger chunk of health. You can do this for basically all of the big runes. They either have some weaker counterpart you'll use more often, or a similar big rune that does slightly something different. It's a reductive way to talk about it, sure, but when all the big runes in one branch are do damage harder, they probably need a touch-up. Items also need a touch-up, by the way. Playing support is a good example of this. Engaged supports are always expected to be tanky while on a budget. In all reality, they're probably just gonna get tank items. The tank support items are pretty weak, and there's not a lot of them to begin with. They don't really have any scaling on them either. They just naturally get stronger over time or have small health scaling like Zeke's Harbinger. I get it though. If you make the very cheap support items too good, then tanks like Cassante and Dr. Mundo are just gonna build those instead of the expensive items like Jack Joe or Heartsteel. You could just make all the support items exclusive if you have the trademark support item World Atlas. That would allow you to rebalance all the support items properly, because the Enchanter support items are a jumbled mess. Some of them feel super situational like Redemption or Mikhail's Blessing, and others just have stronger counterparts. Echoes of Helia lets you convert damage you're dealing into small chunks of healing and more damage when you buff an ally. Its counterpart, Moonstone Renewer, gives a small amount of your heals and shields to allies nearby who you didn't target with the original buff. Echoes almost always feels better, and helps you push a lead by letting you dish out more damage and healing. Moonstone Renewer is a more defensive, protective item for when your team is grouping up. And don't even get me started on Ardent Censer and Staff of Flowing Water. Then Flowing Water. Just... what? Grievous wounds are notoriously bad, and the crit item, Mortal Reminder, is weaker than its standard counterpart, Lord Dominic's Regard. Attack-based carry items blow right now. If you build crit, you're probably getting mostly attack speed. Some crit items give you more damage, but if you want 100% crit chance, you only get one item slot to build something else. And it's probably going to be lifesteal. which you only have 2 options for. Bloodthirster will give you a growing shield if you're at full health, and it will be based mostly on the damage you're doing and the lifesteal it gives you. Blade of the Ruined King gives you less lifesteal, but allows you to do damage based on your target's health. It lets you shred large health champions, but Bloodthirster helps, which helps you survive large bursts of damage. But crit items can't be given lifesteal because cheating-ass champions exist. Yasuo and Yone are champions that double the amount of crit chance they get from items. They also increase their damage, which every point over 100% crit chance. This will never be changed. Their innate existence means if you give lifesteal to any crit item, say Phantom Dancer for example, this will open item builds a little for attack-based carries in the bot lane, but allow Yasuo and Yone to run around every game winning literally everything. Their passives and damage should maybe get touched up too. Yone can, for example, burn someone's entire health bar by popping a mark he places on them by doing damage. And every other one of Yone's attacks does magic damage. So you can't even wall out Yone by playing an armor tank champion. The same could be applied to Yasuo, since when he lands his ultimate, he gains armor penetration. So playing tanks into Yasuo isn't even guaranteed safe. There are champions like Yasuo and Yone for almost every role. Champions that without some type of reworking of their abilities restrict the balancing available to the items of the game. It would be healthier for the game if they were reworked and we were given better options for grievous wounds to cut healing and lifesteal. Oh, and I hate the Udyr and Dr. Mundo reworks. Mundo's feels lazy, not really doing much for his character and just modernizing the big meatball win gameplay style. I hate Udyr much more for a specific reason. He was chosen for a rework in a poll. You'll never guess what fireball loogie hucking dragon was also part of that poll. Regardless, Udyr really only got a visual and lore update if you think about it. When they did the poll to now, from when they dates, but let's be honest, they're soft reworks. Riot calls them visual and gameplay updates, but let's be honest, they're soft reworks. I remember swaths of people clamoring for this Udyr update when it doesn't really do that. He still plays the same, still has 2 different builds that ignore portions of his kit. Nothing's really changed. They made him shiny and new looking, but he's the same champion in the end. A weird ability, auto-attacking, mixed champion. Still, even if you think Udyr really needed the update, despite him basically getting no change, Skarner was also a part of this poll. Skarner got one of the best reworks around. He got an updated kit with new and keeping some of his old tools, the lore and visual update that Udyr had gotten. So, Udyr didn't need to win the poll to get the rework. He could have been held off on like Skarner. The problem now is I don't see them touching back on these other champions in the near future. Hell, Quinn was in this poll. She's notoriously a niche pick that doesn't really have a defined position in the game. At least if she got the rework, she could have been a proper bot lane carry instead of drifting around champion select looking for a good matchup. I guess just to wrap up, since continuing to be upset at the game isn't anything that's going to change anything in the future, I have a few smaller things to touch on. The new objectives in-game suck. Void Grubs feels too weak if you don't get all 3. And even if you do, their true damage to towers effect feels better for split pushing. If you're in a 5v5 teamfight trying to push a tower, you're going to do it either after a small skirmish or after the fight. And at that point, the small damage is negligible. With a couple people hitting a tower with no resistance, you'll probably not need small amounts of true damage to help get the tower. Thornbound Otacon is also the new objective. Feels almost too important. It makes anyone it hits take more, and they can keep increasing these stats and experience gained by getting kills on the enemy. Compared to the other Otacons, this exclusive one is too strong. An experience buff. Defeating it just spawned a bunch of little things to collect, and it also buffed other objectives the team who slayed. It also granted additional gold to kills. Thornbound Voracious Otacon gave the team who defeated it a timer. While the timer was up, they gained a one-time free revive when killed. It also granted additional gold to kills. Thornbound is way too one-sided. Where the other Otacons gave some room for counterplay, the only counterplay for Thornbound Otacon is to not die, which you're already supposed to be doing. I would hardly count what you're meant to be doing in the first place as counterplay, and you couldn't even gather the stat and experience bonus with Thornbound like you could Ruinous. At least Ruinous didn't lock the enemy team out of trying to eventually outscale you. I really do hope this video doesn't hold up, honestly. Hopefully Yunara will get a buff, older champions that deserve some attention get it, items get a big balance and relabeling change, and the game becomes worth your time. I just don't see it happening. I'm working on another League video that maybe can help show why. The content creators I want to talk about don't really talk about these things, it seems. The big ones pushed in my recommended tab, at least. MMORPG or 2xKO. More time means hopefully those games will start out good and get better, instead of being like League of Legends, starting okay and being mediocre. Then again, more time I guess means more time for them to rework champions to be more arcane-like. Maybe they should just rush everything out.